Welcome, everybody. Episode 34 of the latest.
Yeah.
Exciting week, Brad. We say that every week, but
It's always exciting. There's always something happening.
totally.
Yeah. And I'm in a new location today for 1 week. I'm
Right.
somewhere else.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we were talking before the show. You're on vacation, but in
Yeah.
our world, we're always on and phones and updates and
I know I told you something that was new. I'm like, I don't know what's new. I've been out except for these five things. So there's
right.
new things.
And
Yeah.
I've just been heads down with my AI focused conference for the last 2 days.
I
But
know.
then, but even then, it's like keeping up on things is pretty crazy. So, anyway, lots of great stuff happening, and we'll continue. Um, yeah,
All right, let's jump in. So this one, today is the 17th of July, 2025. So this is from 2 days ago. So for some of us, it's brand new. For others, it's super old. Um, Claude for financial services. What does this mean? All right. So Claude is introducing a comprehensive solution for financial analysis. So this is for anyone in business who pulls in numbers. It's not just your numbers. These are information feeds from the elite business news sources that you would want, like Palantir. So when I scroll down here, you can see this. It's the AI ecosystem. So what they're saying is that this product from Claude is not just a rag, a collection of individual sources that you feed it, but it's an ecosystem for financial services. So anyone dealing in finance and has a need for a financial analysis solution. So you're going to analyze some form of finances. They're telling you that data providers have furnished Claude with real-time access to comprehensive financial information. So it means that like these companies give a news feed to Claude that feeds or fuels this financial product. And I've not tried it, so I'm just reading from what Claude is and sharing what's the latest. But look at this. These names, if you know them, should mean something to you. Like Palantir is a very big name in business. All right. Pitchbook, the Standard and Poor Global. I'll just name them: Box, Delupa, Databricks, FactSet, Morningstar, Palantir, Pitchbook, S&P Global, and Snowflake. All these integrations will be available either today or in the coming weeks. So for anyone that has a startup, for anyone that was building their own, AI system, Claude went out and said, "Well, we're a really big company, and now their services include industry-leading financial capabilities. So they outperform other frontier models." I'll always say I don't think these things outperform financial experts at their desk with the same information. It's just that they give you a shortcut on time. So they're saying that these new capabilities outperform other frontier models. And by frontier models, they mean the leading companies in a similar position: ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, Gemini, and Claude. Maybe Mistral, maybe one other one. David, jump in if you think there's another frontier model. Well,
yeah, probably not deep seek, I'd imagine, but
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
or
that's what frontier model. Frontier model means that the language model that's at the forefront, those big names, those are frontier models. And Claude is saying that their latest financial capability is at the front of the pack, and then they underscore the benchmark where you can look at the data that they use for testing. And they're saying when you deploy this product to build an Excel agent, it passes 5 out of 7 levels of this financial modeling World Cup competition and scored an 83% accuracy. I think most business professionals would love to be 83% accurate on what they do, if they could do it inside of 20 minutes and then get
um,
that last meaningful percentage up on their own.
no, it's interesting. I think I spoke to one of our members who works at a big financial services firm. Surprisingly, he said they have like an internal Anthropic or Claude. Maybe he said Anthropic. I think he said Claude. Private server, even though they're a Microsoft shop. So they've been kind of rolling out Copilot slowly, but then they have like their closed LLM using Claude. So I just think we'll start to see the second half of this year just a lot more of going after the enterprise.
Yeah. So speaking of enterprises, let's look at that here. Again, this is from the Anthropic blog, and it's called Claude for Financial Services. What they're saying is that the product that they're offering should help enterprises, which is large companies of, 50, 100, 150, 250 people or more, that they're going to help those companies adopt artificial intelligence software in the context of financials. So they're calling it an ecosystem, and they're saying it delivers both access to data, which we looked above. It's sort of like a private news feed from very specific sources on what's happening in markets, what's happening in pitches, what's happening in the global scene of money. So those are access to data ecosystems, and then implementation expertise. What that means is people who have put these systems into companies. You're going to get the expert of implementation, and then the experts come from leading consultancies that they name here below: Deloitte, KPMG, PricewaterhouseCooper, Slalom, Tribe AI, and Turing. These are their partners. So these aren't just like, oh, it would be similar to this. Anthropic is saying that these are their partners, and what they do is they provide tailored solutions. Tailored solutions to me, David, means pay to play. That's how I read tailored solutions. I would think that if you want, you can pay to play and get a tailored solution across compliance. So what does that mean? Well, I'm in one continent, I'm in one country. Can I do this both in the country where I am and with the country where my customer is? Am I complying with the government laws? Am I complying with internal rules and regulations that my board says I can or can't do this? They provide tailored solutions for research. How do I get information that's going to be reliable? And then how do I get my entire enterprise to adopt this? And then you can read this at your leisure. It offers use cases here. They're going to accelerate the workflow for investment and analysis. So if you're doing any kind of, should we buy this? Should we look into this? Should we analyze if this is going to, they're going to accelerate that process of being critical about that. And they're going to include due diligence, so making sure that the numbers are true, and market research, benchmarking the competition, and then diving deep into the portfolios, modeling out the financials, which is to say, what would happen if all these assumptions are true? What would happen in month 6, month 12, year 2, year 3, year 4? Audit trails, so you can say, where did this number come from? How did we get here? Did this hallucinate? Because that seems to be the buzzword. What happened here? This is my presumption. Again, I haven't used it, but from what I'm reading here, that's what this would seem to mean, is that teams can monitor the performance of their portfolio and compare metrics, or say, like, what if this number changes? What if that number changes across various investments? And what they can do using this software is identify opportunities faster than traditional methods. So whether or not you choose to use this, be aware that some companies are using this. And even if there's a margin of error that you're not comfortable with, there are other people that are comfortable with that margin of error. And what they're going to do is move faster. And I think that's inevitable, David. That's one of the things to know about the latest, is there is always a margin of error, but there's always someone willing to accept that margin of error, and they're going to roll the dice and win.
Right. Well, it's all about the risk profile that they're going to take on, right? And
Yep.
if they want to risk, that's the line that they're going to have to deal with. We had this amazing speaker that Raymond Hagerty brought on yesterday, Margaret Hartnett, who's like AI compliance, IT, AI, PhD in AI, patent attorney too, but just gave so much information too about the global companies, right? I mean, it's like if you're selling your product globally, it's GDPR, the AI regulations within the UK, and then within London because of the split after Brexit. So those are two now. And then I think she said 224 different kind of regulations across the world. See, so you just have to get micro with this and set up the infrastructure so that you can customize things, right?
Mm. So speaking of micro, I wonder what Microsoft's reaction to all these softwares and all these developments is going to be. It would be nice to get the inside scoop from Microsoft, or from someone that we know at Microsoft, because
Right.
when I look at these big companies, Meta, which is Facebook, Apple, Google, Amazon, and they're just too big. They're too big to not do something. And I think it's one thing to want the novel software that does images and video and the razzle dazzle wow, but the big companies that have large organizations and a large number of enterprise clients, I think you're going to see that they might be second to move or third to move, but not late to move. They're just calculatedly moving. And one of those companies is Google. For a while, people said Google was behind, and all of a sudden, people say, well, maybe Google's not behind.
Right.
What's new from them, this is from yesterday, is that there are more advanced AI capabilities coming to search. So Google search, David, as we've talked about in the latest, has become a hallmark of internet use. Internet use 30 years ago, which would be 1995, did not have Google. Google was not a company. And the first 5 to 7 years of internet search did not have Google. I preferred ask.com. Some people liked Ask Jeeves. What did you like in like 95, 6, 7, 8?
Alta Vista was always solid. I think they had the architecture that was kind of let you go deep before Google came.
Alta Vista. I didn't use
Yep.
Alta.
Alta
I
Vista
just misspoke. I said ask.com. It was search.com. It's just been 30 years. So I got the two mixed up. It was search.com. Search.com, I think, became CNET.
did it. Oh yeah,
I think
yeah.
so.
They probably I think they bought them, or that may have been a spin-off of CNET.
Yeah.
Excite was good. You could kind of customize your homepage, right? So I think that was the first one where you customize your look and feel.
Yeah. But
Uh,
now
yeah.
Google seems to have this dominance, and yet I still think we're fairly early in the internet era, broad speaking. And so we don't know what it's going to be. One of the things we should talk about after this is Comet, but right now we're going to stay on Google and say that when you go to Google search, now there are AI capabilities built into search. And so there will be more advanced capabilities coming. And what I think I read is that Gemini's frontier model, as we talked about earlier, the frontier of language models, Gemini right now is called 2.5 Pro. Sometimes I feel like David, we're talking about Windows 95, and we're like, it's Windows 98, like it's going to be here forever. And I'm like, oh, it might be here for like 6 to 18 months, and there'll be a new frontier. But for now, it's 2.5, and they're telling us on this Google blog that your traditional Google search will now be featuring a powerful capability with Gemini 2.5 Pro and Deep Search. When you just go and look up a Google search for like what time's the pizzeria open, or I got to take my kid to swimming lessons and there's a detour, is there a faster route around? You might find when you look AI mode in your Google search, right? You've got your G for Google, you've got your AI mode toggle at the top with a little arrow. I think if you click it, you'll get this gray rectangle to pop up. And then you can choose between fast all around help or reasoning. What I noticed, David, as well, is my Pixel Watch. I'm in the Google ecosystem. My Pixel Watch, I can now talk to it with my voice straight to my wristwatch and get Gemini on my wristwatch.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, being like I mean, we started Witty on Apple computers in 89 and 88, probably criteria research. I was using them. So it's kind of always been that. Never really went to the Google phones so much. I mean, certainly used Gemini. I love all the Google stuff, but I was helping this guy, this older guy. I was at the T-Mobile store yesterday, and he came in. The lady's like, "Oh yeah, just patch it in your Bluetooth in the car."
Hmm.
Like, there's no way. This guy looked at her like she was, speaking Chinese or something. So I went out there to help him, and he had a Google phone. I mean, and I was able to kind of. It was pretty straightforward. I have to say that it's like, oh wow, because I just hadn't worked with one for a while, but
Yeah.
pretty
I,
cool how all that stuff's advancing.
I like it. I got to tell you, David, I've had Apple, I've had Galaxy, and now I have Google. I'm enjoying the Google ecosystem.
Yeah,
So
and can you I mean, can you use both now? I mean, pretty
it's seamless. It's
rated.
really
It
seamless.
is.
Really seamless. So I've been intentionally letting this video run in the background that shows you what it looks like to use Google search with AI, right? It seems pretty cool. You can use AI to get things done faster. Um, if you're interested in Google, check it out. I also like Google for Notebook LM. And now, from 3 days ago, again, still the
Wait,
latest.
oh, wait, real quick, Brad. Do you feel like with that search stuff that they're kind of moving towards an agentic browser potentially?
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
did right because the Chromium, I mean the Perplexity agent browser is built in Chromium. So they, right, which is the open source Chrome browser. So yeah, I think that it should be interesting. I was listening to the CEO of Perplexity on a podcast early this morning, and totally.
Yeah. Let's jump there in one sec. We'll go quickly over here.
Yeah.
We'll click on Google and just
No,
say
I was want to talk about Notebook LM, but
if you like Notebook LM, this is from 3 days ago as well. Featured notebooks is what's new, and they're on selected topics. I think it's like a Wikipedia article, but it's a notebook that you can interact with and play with. Because it's free and because it's public domain, they're going to pick Shakespeare, right? So you're going to put the complete works of Shakespeare in, and then you could talk to it. That's kind of cool. And that's just a single instance. Your brain, your creativity, and your artistry and your research can take you any number of places. So their notebooks cover everything from in-depth scientific explorations to practical travel guides to advice from experts. So this is part of their initial lineup. Okay, longevity advice, 2025 predictions, an advice notebook. Okay, thank you, pop up. An advice notebook from How to Build a Life, and it's from The Atlantic. So reputable sources. Visit Yellowstone National Park, Human Wellbeing, published by the University of Oxford, affiliated project, a science-backed parenting advice, Shakespeare, the first quarter earnings of the top 50 public companies. Goodness gracious, that's interesting, David, to think that there'll be publicly accessible notebooks, like a private library or a semi-private library to enter into and engage with. Um, but if we stop talking about Google and we start talking about Perplexity and Comet, there's something new there. I think you know about this. What is it?
Well, it's an agent-based browser, right? So if we think about just what we do on a day-to-day and just the things that are taking up our time, you can now just quickly tell your browser to do it, right? So rather than, I think setting up an agent in the past would make, and you got to integrate everything and blah, blah, blah. If it's all integrated into your browser where you have, log into different accounts and stuff like that done, you can just tell it to do things, almost like you'd tell a search, you chat GPT to take care of things. But now you can say, unsubscribe from all the junk emails I get, send clean up my LinkedIn, do this, do that. Pretty crazy.
Hmm. So I've heard the buzz. Like I said at the start of this conversation, that I've been on vacation for a couple days, and this is brand new. I've not had a chance to read this. Um, I've not had a chance to use the Comet browser, but people talked about click tracking and activity tracking. I have not gone into that. Did you go into that or not yet?
I don't go into click tracking now. I was just really listening to the interview with I forgot the person's name, is the CEO and founder of Perplexity.
Yeah. I'm also noticing, David, these websites that have a unique scroll. So like I'm scrolling here and it's shifting and moving around. I kind of like it. It's fun, but it's not traditional. So this
Right.
is Perplexity, which is one of the leading language models. Um, Comet is here. We'll have to look into it deeper. There's so much that's new. Wind
Yes. And Brad, you froze for me. So I think that what Brad was going to talk about is windsurf. And oh, Brad, okay, you're unfrozen now. Yes, but windsurf was finally bought by Cognition. But that was, and again, I heard the last couple months OpenAI was going to purchase windsurf. It should happen any day. Um, but it's interesting, that Devin, Scott Alberts had told me about
Mm,
while ago. Maybe it was just
yeah.
3 months ago. It seems like a year ago. But
Yeah.
when it came out and just how revolutionary it was going to be, and you had to attach it to your GitHub and this and that. I'm just like, okay, I kind of, that was one I didn't get back to, but I know when Scott Albert says it's exciting, I listen. And now for them to be big enough and they bought Windsurf and took it away from both OpenAI and Google, that's something we need to watch, Brad, right?
Yeah. So to make sense of this, um, Google hired WindSurf's CEO, right? They did a reverse acquihire, which means you're acquiring and hiring someone. Um, and then OpenAI offered 3.0 billion or 3 billion. They offered 2.4. And then am I wrong in saying that Cognition has nothing to do with Google, so Google didn't actually purchase them.
Right. Right. So it looks like they grabbed a few of the people, WindSurf, then Cognition acquired them. It looks like what, for 82 million? Is that what it says?
I'm trying to read this. They hired the CEO away from WindSurf,
Right.
right? And then I don't know, David. Like I said, like
Right
oh,
there.
this is 82 million in
Oh, ARR.
recurring
Got it,
revenue.
got it. So right,
There's
I think,
so much new. It's literally hard to keep up with it because there's just so much that's new on all these things.
but it's interesting, right? When they're talking about hiring people away from these companies for 50, 100 million. So now if you're getting a company with, 50 researchers, just do the math, right? And then if Google can swoop in, grab some of the key people, how much does that deflate the cost?
So I think this is what I'm understanding now is that Altman tried to buy um, the company.
Right?
Google said, "Hey, maybe we'll buy you, or we'll just take your CEO." And Cognition buys the company without the CEO.
Right.
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 I'm making sense of this.
And the co-founder, it looks like Google might have got too.
Yeah.
Right. So look, we're just gonna see this half of the year is gonna be so exciting because Microsoft, one of my old Borland friends from way, way back, we'll give a shout out to Roland Fernandez. He's been an AI researcher at Microsoft now for a while. I don't think he's working on any OpenAI Copilot stuff. I mean, maybe he's doing some things. I kind of think that they have something going on in the background, all these new things coming out that are kind of being held behind the scenes, and then it just turns into a timing, leapfrog the others. Rock 4 came out, OpenAI 5 is going to come out after that, right? So it seems like they have so much in the tool belt, and it's just how are they going to release it to keep to trigger the audience. Summer, you'd think summer would be a lag, I guess, but
Mhm.
I don't see any lag.
This concept came up in conversation the other day, which is that Windows 95 was a leap in your computer experience. Windows 98 was a leap, but once you got to like Windows 2000 or Windows XP, I don't know that Windows is that different of an experience from 20 years ago. Like if you haven't used Windows in 20 years and you sit down at the computer, there are of course new features, there are of course new details, but fundamentally it's not the leap that we made in the early stages. And my guess is, my hunch is, with much of AI software that we might be in that almost Windows 98 phase where like there's like one more layer of very impressive new things. But one wonders how much more there is to change before we call it something else entirely. So,
Right.
so in that sense, I think I keep hearing this name Kimmy. Do you know much about Kimmy?
No.
I keep
I've
hearing
heard.
about Kimmy.
Yeah,
Kimmy
did
is
you?
new.
Okay.
Okay, I'm unfrozen there. Yeah, you can see the Chinese characters. I'm gonna translate only this time. But Kimmy is a new model. And Kimmy, I keep hearing really good things about it. If I can get to the news and see if there's a easy to get headline. Kimmy 2 is the model that should worry Silicon Valley, says someone from a day ago. Um, Kimmy 2 and when deep seek moments become normal. It's an Alibaba-backed moonshot, and it's a model that allegedly beats ChatGPT and Claude in coding, and it costs less. So that's the buzz on Kimmy, is that it comes from a backing of Alibaba, and their company Moonshot releases the model Kimi K2. So it's a foreign to North America frontier model. And if you trust the benchmarks that all these companies want to say, look at these different things, the Ace Bench, the Live Code Bench version 6, etc. They're saying that versus Claude Sonnet, GPT 4.1, QWen DeepSeek version 3, that Kimi K2, it's, you when they highlight it in blue, your eyes tend to gloss over, but what I still see is Opus 4 is above, Sonnet 4 is above. But over here, in the live code versions, it is true that they're at the very least competitive, if not neck and neck or even leading.
Right.
So K2, if it matters to you for the price of these things, language models for APIs and for business that you're doing, um, it's an indication, David, that if it costs less to make, it might cost less to use. And if it costs less to make, it means that someone might make a very custom version of any of these tools within a company or within an ecosystem or within an enterprise, or start to white label these things and say, I'll put your name on it and it'll feel internal. So I think there's going to be a creativity burst among people with large budgets for customized software that they're going to say, look, if Moonshot made Timmy 2 and it's competitive with these guys, why don't we make our own? Um,
Right.
I
And
think
it's just going to drive innovation too. It's going to push Claude now to release the next thing. I mean, as far as those charts you showed, I think that still wasn't Chinese for me, Brad, because I'm not a programmer or developer. But we'll have to ask like Dan Wilson or something, right? What all this stuff means on Monday.
yeah.
Um, but yes, no, I think right. It's exciting because we saw when DeepSeek came out, it seemed just to drive a bunch of other companies to push things out faster. And I think we'll see the same with this, but that's amazing find, Brad. I'm going to dig into that. 'Cause I heard something about it, I think on maybe Peter Diamandis' show, but I hadn't dug in.
Yeah, I heard buzz about it and I'm like, I gotta look. Uh, it's not here yet, but it's worth talking about. Is ChatGPT 5 allegedly coming this summer, like a blockbuster movie coming this summer? We're gonna put the poster up and just say coming soon.
Right,
Um, And look at this, open to ads on ChatGPT. All of a sudden, they might make some money. All of a sudden, there might be advertisements. Okay, all right. What I've heard from it, not much. I've not heard much on it that there might have an operator-like tool. For anyone who ever paid the $200 and used the agent on ChatGPT, it was called Operator. They might have something like that. Um, I'm hearing little bits and pieces that's not worth reading until it gets there. Do you know what I mean? Like until you actually get it, you're just like, I don't know. It's going to be
right,
something because I
right,
read these things from April 1st. Well, that might be an April Fool's Day.
right.
From 1 week ago.
Right,
It says Bleeping Computer says that ChatGPT 5 will unify breakthroughs from different models. Okay,
right,
but there's also Grok. And we started today's conversation just before we hit record, and you used the number 1,000, and you said something was happening with
right.
Grok.
Well, they were talking about how Elon and what they were able to do is integrate many of the create basically a cluster of GPUs.
So these are like the physical, hold it in your hand computer parts, right? And they process
The big
graphics, which is hard to
chips.
wrap your head around, but
Like
like
yes.
modern AI runs through a processor of graphics, even though it's not about driving images on the screen. This is like the hold it in your hand computer part that helps your computer use it at a great speed.
Right. So those are the graphic processors, right? And I think as AI came out and Gen AI, NVIDIA took a lot of their gaming chips and started shifting it for that. I think that's why we'll see a lot of advancement in the just in the silicon space. But
Mhm.
what I heard and what I heard on Peter Diamantis's Moonshot, I think it's called, his podcast was that, Elon basically said he could do it. Everybody said he couldn't do it, just came out with it as part of Grok 4. Now they get, I think they said 1,000x, maybe it was 100x, but it was a big number X,
Yeah,
just the power of what they could do. And just with their, I think it's $300 a month level,
yeah,
you have a team of PhDs, even PhDs plus, that can solve new problems for you, right? And it can kind of think on its own. It's exciting. Now, when I
yeah,
saw that OpenAI 5 article you put up that came out a week ago, I think that was the exact time that Grok 4 came out. Are they just trying to busy up the news with that stuff?
yeah.
I'd say probably.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it is. It's always the case that you want to be in the news when your competitor does something. You're like, hey, we're gonna do something too. Uh, but in a nutshell, what Elon's team at Grok has done, and I'm learning from you, is taken existing leading computer parts and said, if I organize them in this way, there's a compound factor, and we can all of a sudden make all the users of their software um, able to get a much smarter multiple agent. And I think for most of us, we're still not quite grounded in what agents are and what agents will do. Um, I think that'll take time. Even if you get it conceptually in the moment, I'm of the belief that most people, when they're using their computer, it doesn't sit in your mind that you could send out a task, and then when there's multiple agents, you could send out multiple tasks, and those software instructions that you give your computer might all of a sudden create layers of instructions beyond your initial instruction. Go
Right.
achieve this goal, and that software program will do instructions within that, sub goals and micro goals and team functions. It's hard to fathom until you see it and get used to it, but I think that will become more common. Like you're saying, it might be like go into my email and clean it up.
Right.
And then it'll be like, okay, step one, read email. Step two, learn what clean up means. Step three, get context from his email inbox. Step four, see what he's never opened that there's 200 of. And step five, bundle them up. Step six, read that there's nothing important in there. Step seven, delete them. I didn't have to tell it those 7 steps. I just said something very natural language like clean up my email.
Right.
And
So it
that's
is
agentic. The agent goes and does those things.
totally. So it is just kind of retraining ourselves how to use these things, right? And whatever's things that were impossible
Yeah.
that are now possible. So
And I'm almost certain, David, for anyone who knows agentic deeply, they're shaking their head going, Brad, no, that's not it at all. It's much bigger than that. And I'm like, I'm sure it is. I'm just getting my toes wet in this big ocean of agentic.
right, but Brad, and you're right, it is. But again, we are the customers, all the users out there. They're not looking at it the way the engineers are and everything else.
Yep.
So it's like, how do we naturally do things, right? With AI, I think it's much thinking outside of the box and anything is possible, which is some of the exciting things. Yeah, but just training ourselves, right? Half for me, half the time it's like, duh, why didn't I use AI for that? Or why am I sitting here thinking, right?
Yeah.
About whatever, because I could just pop it
Sure.
into ChatGPT or
Sure. It would be akin to like 100 years ago saying, man, I have to walk to the next town. And someone's like, why didn't you take the car? And you're like, oh, I never thought about that. Like, I could have just
right.
taken the car and got there
Exactly.
quicker. Um,
Why didn't I teleport? Or why didn't I do this or
Yeah,
that?
that's true, right? If there was teleporting, it would be a much different world. So
Totally.
I think that's a good amount of the latest. The Perplexity has the Comet browser. Whether or not you use the Comet browser, whether or not the privacy is real as an issue, whether or not you like the risk, that's separate. What's coming though, if Perplexity's Comet is an agentic AI browser that all of a sudden people are talking about, you can guarantee that other makers of browsers are going to bring in an agentic browser that will use the way you browse internet websites with the context of AI and AI agents. When you come to look at AI software companies, the ones that code like WindSurf and Replit, it's interesting to note that not only is the company worth money and the data worth money, but the individuals inside the company are worth astronomical numbers, and that large corporations are at least creating conversation around that. What else is interesting to note is that when very big companies make large language models, that foreign companies can say, you know what, I'm just going to make one for a lot less, and I bet you it works good enough. It's interesting to note that Claude has financial software that says, hey, I can be as smart as your financial team. ChatGPT 5 is coming. Google is changing towards agentic. I think that's the latest, David. That's a lot in 7 days.
That is the lot. One announcement we did miss, though, is that our own Michael Knopfsinger from the AI Catch Up did announce that his book is coming out very shortly. Uh,
Yes.
what's his book called? And I had it right in front of me, and it just left. His book is called The AI Advantage. So, Michael, so much wisdom. We've all seen him speak, and it's great that we'll have kind of a go to reference. I want to give a shout out to Susan Gundas and Brian Narakiefer for reaching out to me and watching the latest weekly. So we appreciate you. And Brad, have a great rest of your vacation. Shut the phone off after this. You can catch up later when you get back. Thanks, everybody. AI think tank later today. I got my quantum security series going tomorrow. That's been really good.
People are interested in that. I was surprised how much enthusiasm I heard from very smart minds. Dan Wilson was just like, quantum, I've got to be there. And he advises foreign governments on these things. So
Yeah,
it's no small conversation you're having there. That's fantastic.
yeah, so it's good. Look, we have to keep up. We have to figure out who's doing what, and that's the latest.